Hello, and welcome to yet another wonderful episode of the 145 Booth. I am your host, Lydia Ndwiga, and today we have an amazing guest on set with us. And as we had said in our first episode, we're not able to talk about mental health without actually having a professional with us. And we'd like to hear more about mental health from a proper professional. And allow me to welcome our guest today. Her name is Jennifer Kyalo. She's a counseling psychologist, and over to her so that she can tell us who she is, because if I start telling you who she is, I will water it down. Karibu sana.
Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Kyalo. I am a counseling psychologist. I am a writer. I am a student of psychology. I am currently pursuing my doctorate in clinical psychology. So I will be a counseling and clinical psychologist in a few years, I guess. Mm-hmm. For now, I have a master's in counseling psychology. I am an alumni of the University of Nairobi.
Hey, let me tell you the issue with the. Okay, the University of Nairobi.
Yes. So, I studied counseling psychology from my undergrad to my master's, and now I am doing a doctorate in clinical psychology. And that's the work that I do. I work as a psychotherapist, and I work with people over 25 to help them with their mental health issues, ranging from depression, anxiety, stress, suicidality, existential crisis, getting unstuck, grief, things of that nature. So really, I love my job and I love working with people. So that's who I am and that's what I do.
So basically, we are being told that we're in safe hands.
You are in very safe hands.
Yeah. So tell us a little about Safe Space Arena.
So Safe Space Arena is the brand name that I go by. When you Google that, you will see my business, my mental health business, where I offer mental health services to individuals and to corporates. So with corporates, it's more about creating mental health strategies to help companies figure out how to take care of their employees when it comes to mental health. So many companies may not have a mental health person on board, or they may not have a mental health employee who takes care of the staff members' mental well-being. So if you hire me as mental health wellness consultant, I will come in and help you as a company create a mental health strategy for your employees. How do you take care of your employees? What is needed? Where are they right now? What are they struggling with? And where can they go? How can they get support when it comes to mental health?
Yeah.
So that's for corporates. For individuals, it's you coming in for therapy sessions. We talk about what you're going through. We figure out how you can live better, you can live healthier. That's what Safe Space does. And the other arm of Safe Space Arena is more about content, mental health content. So I create mental health content. I am on the TikToks. I am. I'm on the TikToks creating mental health awareness because we need to speak more about mental health.
No, we do. Yeah,
and so Safe Space Arena comes in that direction. So creating mental health content on TikTok, on Instagram, YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. There's a whole podcast, Conversations with a Therapist podcast. Yeah. They're rarely conversations, but that's not the point. Creating all that awareness. We write blog posts. We have a weekly newsletter. It's called Mental Wealth. What else do we have that is important to mention? I think that's most of it. Oh, and the books, obviously.
And the books. I was going to ask you about that.
I write books about mental health, sometimes for therapists, sometimes for the general public. So there's my most recent book is How to Set Boundaries, which is a book for the general public. You can get it if you contact me, or you can get it directly from Amazon if you want to. So it's more content when it comes to mental health and the service provision when it comes to corporates and individuals. That's the whole umbrella for Safe Space Arena.
Yeah, and just to throw this to you, do you think, can you call yourself a creative?
I am a creative, 100%.
Yeah. So which means 145 Booth guys are in a safe space. First of all, I love that you call it a Safe Space Arena, and at the same time you're creative. So which means creatives for creatives to just help us understand and demystify mental health. Like we had talked earlier, mental health is one of those very mystic things, in as much as we think that we have embraced it as, sorry to use this, but the Western culture has already done that. We still have a lot to understand and go through and just demystify, because every one of us has their own idea of what mental health looks like and what mental health should look like, and how I how I can classify myself as a person who's mentally stable. All right, so maybe you can also start by telling us, what is mental health according to a professional, because we have our own idea of what mental health looks like.
That's a good question about mental health. What is mental health? So mental health, the the appropriate definition that I would use is mental health is your overall psychological well-being. Just the same way you have physical health, you have mental health. And it exists on a spectrum. Mental health exists on a spectrum. On this end of the spectrum is good mental health. You are okay. You're not struggling with anything per se. You are operating vizuri. You're not struggling too much. And then on the other end of the spectrum is mental illness. And mental illness is now when you have a diagnosis. It's any specific thing. It could be a mood disorder. It could be a substance abuse disorder. It could be an eating disorder. It could be any number of disorders that exist on this end of the spectrum. So most of us are somewhere in the middle. And that's what I mean when I say the overall psychological well-being. So this mental health can be impacted by very many factors. There are some days where you have good mental health, some days you don't have good mental health. That does not mean that you have a mental illness. Not everybody who has poor mental health has a mental illness, because again, it's a spectrum. So on the days that you are having good mental health, you're somewhere here. And most of us operate somewhere here. That's how we are able to function on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
That's how you're able to wake up, go to work, even when you are stressed. It's how you're able to wake up and take care of your kids, take care of your business, do whatever you need to do, even when you're having a bad day, because it exists on a spectrum. So that's mental health. And it's the same case, as I said, with physical health. Some days you are physically ill, proper, you are unwell, you can't get out of bed. So it means you're on this end of the spectrum. On most days, you are somewhere closer to this side, because you can get up out of bed. Even if you have a backache, it's not as bad.
It's not as bad.
You can still function. Yeah. So mental health exists on that spectrum. So what most people assume is mental health is not always mental health. It's when now people start calling mental illnesses something related to mental health, when it's really not the full thing. Mental illness is on this end. It is when things are really going bad. You have maybe a diagnosis. Like, for example, you could have OCD, you could have PTSD, you could have bipolar, you could have depression, anxiety. All those are disorders, and they are the mental illnesses. So these ones can be diagnosed by professional, mostly a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist. Depending on the training, there are some counseling psychologists who can diagnose mental illnesses, but it's not everyone, because it depends on the training that you got. For psychiatrists, they will diagnose your mental illness. They'll likely give you medication. For a clinical psychologist, they'll probably diagnose your mental illness, and they'll be able to help you figure out some ways of existing with it, coexisting with it. And if it's something that needs medication, they will send you to a psychiatrist, so that the psychiatrist can give you medication. So not everybody who has a mental illness is struggling that they can get out of bed. There are people who are living and thriving even with a mental illness. There are people who have PTSD and they still wake up and go to work. So it's not the death sentence that people assume it is. Having a mental illness is not the end of the world. It's not a disability that now you cannot do anything. It can be disabling, of course, but it's not a death sentence. And I think that the thought that it's a death sentence contributes to the fear around mental health. So when you hear that you have depression, you're like, oh my God, I will never get out of bed.
It's a stigma of some sort. You remember how in those days HIV was a stigma? Like right now, I mean, there's always something that can be done to help us live together. And now you have more information about what's happening with different kind of illnesses that we deal with. Because sometimes someone always tells you, when you get this, it's a death sentence. When you get this, because research has it that this is what has exactly happened. But I'm happy that we're able to have conversations around the things that we have actually made a stigma, and we're able to talk about them, because they really, I think they affect our day-to-day lives. And we don't know that they're actually affecting us, because, I mean, from a long time, our parents have also told us, and we were talking about it in the first episode, unalipa rent? Unanunua chakula? Apana. What do you mean you're depressed? So I think we've grown up with that taboo for I cannot talk about what I'm feeling. I can't talk about what I'm going through. And I should be resilient, and suffer. Like we were talking about earlier, long suffering. Well, it's a fruit that we need to embrace and have. But should I long suffer in silence? And if I long suffer in silence, then it looks that I am strong and I can do these things and do them well.
The question is, strength for who? Who are you strong for?
Who are you strong?
That is what I would ask you. I'd be like, why are you trying to be strong for who? If you're trying to be strong for yourself, and maybe your kids, I would understand why you would want to be strong for your kids. But long suffering does not need to be at you now. You can't function. There's no reward for suffering too much in silence. Imagine just to get help. And I think that has contributed to the reason why people won't seek help when they're struggling, because they're thinking, if I am struggling, it's a sign of weakness. But I'm wondering, if you get diabetes and you have to inject insulin every day, is that a sign of weakness?
No, it's not.
It's just that insulin is not functioning as it should.
You're
getting help, and you're long suffering. Either way, life is suffering in many extents, depending on how you look at it. And I think many people struggle with life because they think that it should be easy, and they forget that most of life is honestly just a matter of struggling and being resilient with that suffering and figuring out how to live better. So it's a Darwinian principle, to be honest. Survival of the fittest, right?
Yeah.
The fittest does not mean that you don't get hurt.
Yeah.
It means that when you get hurt, you can get up and take care of yourself and heal and move on. So, like, for example, if your immunity is good, if you have good immunity, it doesn't mean that you don't get sick. It means that when you get sick, first of all, you get sick less often. And when you get sick, you heal faster. It does not mean you don't get sick.
Yeah.
So people who have pure immunity means that for them, they probably get ill more often and they struggle through their illness longer than they should. So having good mental health does not mean that you won't struggle. It means that when you struggle, it will be less often, and when it happens, it will not last as long as somebody who is having like proper mental illnesses. So that's like something that you need to think about. It doesn't mean that you won't struggle. Most of life is struggling so that you can become stronger. If you're not pushing against a weight, then your muscles don't grow.
They don't.
So I'm not saying that it is now everybody needs to suffer. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying accept that you need something to push against. You need a load to carry. And it's okay for you to carry that load. But that does not mean that when you're tired, you don't put it down.
It's true. It's very true.
That's how I look at it.
I like that you... Although...
Somebody might argue against me. They might be like, Jennifer, that is such a stoic principle. And I'm like, I think we should all be stoics. Anyway.
Story for another day. All right. I love that you've mentioned about the different mental illnesses that exist. And honestly, we throw them around. Oh, I have moved my little cup from there. I don't like it there, so I have OCD, you know? Or she's fixed your chain. You have OCD. Oh, your hair has to be nice. Oh, you have OCD. No, you must be very traumatized. Oh, you must be very depressed. And we like throwing those things towards to people. And as I was telling you earlier, sometimes when someone doesn't react the way we think it should be reacted to, like someone has lost someone or something major has happened to someone and they're left okay, we have the expectation you should be crying. You should be feeling bad that this and this and this is over, like this part of your life. You should be reacting in a certain way. And so the expectation from us might actually push someone to feel as if they have a disorder, which is possible to live in the reality of what everyone else expects of you. So maybe you can demystify for us, I know it's a whole discussion, but let's talk about trauma and depression. I think those are the two words that we throw around a lot. Oh, I have PTSD, or I have ADHD, or I have ABCD. At what point can I actually be legit and say I am actually feeling depressed? Because depression is now a clinical, it should be clinically diagnosed, right? But we usually say, oh, I'm feeling so depressed. Today's a sad day. Or the sun is not out. It's a bluey day and whatnot. So at what point should I, so that I don't go to the extent of telling myself I'm actually depressed and I'm not? You know, the way we go to Google and, oh, my head is feeling some type of way.
You have a traumatic brain injury.
There's actually a friend of mine who came and told me, Lydia, I think I have cancer.
I'm not laughing at the cancer, guys.
Oh, no. But I was in shock. Like, I was, what, did you get diagnosed? Did you go to hospital? I was like, no, I went and searched and I found that this and this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, can we go to the hospital and get checked? And then eventually she comes and tells me, no, it was just actually something else. So we do that a lot, don't we? Like, we do that a lot. The Google is our doctor. And then we say, I have every sign. Even when I went to look for what a narcissistic looks like, they have every sign of being a narcissist. You know, like we use that. So according to you, trauma, depression, in the shortest of ways that you can describe them, like at what point can I actually say I have trauma? At what point can I actually say I have depression? And at what point should I be able to now go to a verified person or a professional and actually get diagnosed for either of them?
You've touched on several points there that I think would lead us to very different places if we went by them. But I think a big one is the differentiation between when do you know that your trauma is actually something that needs medical attention, or your depression needs medical attention? So there's an episode I did, and I was talking about being sad is not being depressed, and being stressed is not being having an anxiety disorder.
Or a rainy day does not have to make you traumatized.
No, it does not have to be traumatizing. So trauma is what happens to you after an event has occurred. It's not necessarily the event that occurred, because different people have different reactions to external stimuli. So, for example, if there's a common example that is given in the mental health field, that if there's a fire and I am at the fire, me as a regular person, I'll be like, oh my God, guy, what is happening? But a firefighter will come in and be ready, put out the fire, and they'll be like, job done, let's go home. Yeah,
or that kid, you've seen that meme where a kid is swinging and then there's a huge blast behind them, and then they're just swinging and they're moving on with life.
Exactly. Yeah. So if I am a firefighter, for me, the big fire is not a traumatic event. It doesn't traumatize me.
It doesn't traumatize you.
Because I am equipped with different skills to deal with it. For me, it's not an overwhelming experience. Even if it's a big fire, I'm like, I've been to firefighter school. I've been taught how to firefight. I know what I need is water in the gari for shushuing. Yeah. And then, for me as a regular mwananchi, I don't know what I'm supposed to do at a fire.
No, you don't.
I don't have enough water anyway, so I don't feel equipped to deal with the thing.
Yeah, do you jump from third floor?
Exactly. So, most people assume that trauma now is that fire. But the fire is not the trauma. The fire is not because the fire lighting, that's an external event. What happens to you because of that fire is what is the trauma. And that's like the simplest way to define trauma for a layman. And you need to be able to, most people who struggle with these traumatic events, these events that are meant to induce trauma, and then they don't struggle the way we think they should, that is when they struggle even the most, because now we isolate them in their struggle. So you mentioned something about, for example, somebody has passed on and you are supposed to be grieving, and people are looking at you and they're thinking, why are you not grieving the way people are supposed to grieve?
Why aren't you wailing?
Yeah, but it's because maybe that's not their internal experience. I don't know if have you watched this? Did you watch the series on Netflix called Unbelievable?
No, I haven't yet.
There's a series on Netflix called Unbelievable. So it's about some ladies who get sexually abused by an intruder who breaks into their houses. But when they report, it doesn't look believable because there's an expectation of what a sexual abuse victim should look like or should behave like. Yeah. And so that's like the whole premise of the show. I watched it, I was like, oh wow, this is insane. So we have expectations of what trauma should look like, what pain should look like, what grief should look like, what depression should look like. So when people don't exhibit those behaviors, we automatically assume they are not as depressed or as suffering as they should be. And so we isolate them and they can't seek help because they're like, and it's true, if I am not unable to get out of bed, or if I'm not suicidal, then I'm not depressed enough. So they don't seek support when they could get support. So every day they're waking up, they're struggling, but they can't explain why they're struggling. They're like, mbona nateseka and I have everything, but you're depressed, but you can't seek help because you're supposed to be suicidal for you to be depressed enough. Yeah. So that becomes the problem with expecting what mental health should look like. There's no one standard about what mental illness presentations should look like. And that's why we need to believe people's stories as they are. And that's why it matters that you go to a professional, because a professional can help you actually detect whether what you have is an actual mental illness or you're just having a bad day. Being sad, feeling sad, having a difficult experience does not mean automatically you have a depression diagnosis. Sometimes you're just sad. And sadness is part of life.
And it's part of life.
Yeah. And it's a diagnosis when, for example, you are hitting a majority of the markers of depression on the manual for diagnosing mental illnesses, and it is affecting your daily life. You cannot get out of bed, so you're not working, you're not taking care of your kids, you're not taking care of your family, you're not doing the things that you do on a daily basis, or you are depressed, you are getting out of bed, but you are abusing drugs so much that you are completely numb and disconnected from yourself. So you are unable to perform at work because you're constantly high. You see, now that's a different way that depression is showing up. And it is okay. It's okay for you to have these different expressions, but if they're impacting your daily life in a way that makes it difficult for you to exist, then you need to seek support. And depression looks different on different people.
It does.
There are different markers of depression for men than there are for women. So depression looks very different sometimes in men than it does in women.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and because again, this is a lot to do with also your therapist. As a therapist, you need to keep updating. I don't know if there's a therapist listening to this, but you need to keep updating your knowledge. You need to keep learning more about what the evolutions that are happening in mental illness and mental health in general. So if your therapist does not, if you're a man, for example, and you're going to therapy, and your therapist is trying to assess your depression based purely on the existing diagnosis that is very much rooted in women's presentation of mental illness, then of course there are things that your therapist might miss out.
Yes.
Or even your psychiatrist, they could miss out on some things that are very obvious because they are specific to men than they are to women. Because they're acceptable in men and they're not acceptable in women. Or because the science is based on a lot of research on women, because most women seek help. Historically, it's women who seek a lot of the help.
Yeah, it's true.
So, of course, the data that will be gathered will be very skewed in that sense. And so you need to be aware that just because you don't show the kawaida marks, the ones that people expect, it does not mean that you're not struggling. And struggling does not mean that now you continue suffering in silence because it doesn't look like the way it's supposed to look like. It's okay to be like, me, my suffering looks different and it's okay. Let me go seek help. And it's okay for you to have a therapist always on speed dial on your phone book. The way you have, I am assuming you have some doctor on your phone, even if it's a friend.
Even though it's a friend.
Yeah, it could be your therapist friend. Your friend who went to therapy school. Just ask her, hey, by the way, you know how you call your friends who are doctors and like, I have a pimple.
And it's not going away.
And they're like, oh, okay, what does it sound like? What does it look like? I may not treat you, but go to the nearest chemist and get this medicine. Or go to the nearest hospital and get this test. Yeah. So it's okay for you to make therapy friends. You can be my friend, guys. It's okay for you to be my friends and ask me these questions, or ask your therapist friends. Find someone you can ask these questions. Don't rely too much on Google. And don't Google your problems. You'll always have cancer if you Google. It always ends up with cancer and a brain tumor. So don't Google your problems.
So basically what you're saying, you see how we normally have like a yearly or a biannual body checkup. You know, you go check your BP, you go check your sugar, you go check everything else about that. Is it the same way for our mental health situation? Is it possible to actually just get an analysis of what, I don't know what the checklist looks like, but maybe after this we are able to know what the checklist looks like? Is there like a checklist? Like for us, we know, ukienda hosi, utaangaliwa blood pressure, uangaliwe kama sugar yako iko sawa, utaangaliwa, what else do they check? If your immunity system is okay. Is there like something like that where we need to go and tick?
I think it's a difficult question to answer, but I have seen some people try to answer it in a way. So like on my phone, I get this reminder every 3 months to do a mental health exam on my phone. So I don't know. I don't know if and in the exam they tell me to check they test my anxiety levels, they test my depression levels, and I'm like, okay, this sounds well and good, but it could be situational. Sometimes I could be okay in the last 4 months, and then a month from now, someone I love dies, and I am thrown into a serious depression.
It's true.
It doesn't mean that I have a problem in my life about depression, you know. So I think it might be tricky. What I would recommend is, when it's okay to have somebody you can always bounce ideas on, like your therapist. It's okay for you to have a therapist. You check maybe once a month or every 6 months. You just like, let me go and chat with my therapist. Let me see where I am. Let me see the things that have happened in the last 6 months. How have I handled them? How am I doing? How am I feeling about my progress? In which areas am I struggling? In which areas could I do better? Is my alcohol consumption becoming a problem? Am I worried? Am I not worried? Can I go and report success? Can I go and tell my therapist, oh yeah, by the way, I've been using those tools you spoke about, and now things are looking much better? It's okay for you to report success by the in therapy. It's not always about bringing problems. No. We love good news.
We love problems. I want problems always.
It's okay for you to come with good news, because I mean your therapist is very invested in your well-being, and they want you to succeed.
And
your
that's
therapist
the whole
wants
idea.
your therapist wants you to be okay. So it's okay for you to come and just as you said, a checkup. It doesn't need to be a checklist. It can just be like, this is where I've been. These are the places I've gone. These are where my mind has taken me. These are the things that have happened. Just checking in to know that I am somewhere. And it's not about I am perfect. You'll never be perfect. And your mental health will never be perfect.
No.
As you've said, it's a spectrum. Some days you wake up and you just cannot get out of bed. Today we are rotting.
So there's a lot to unpack about mental health. And if you asked, like for me personally, when I have a friend and they're telling me what they've gone through and they're giving me their experience, there's a point where you feel as if you're syncing with their energy, and sometimes it feels, oh my goodness, I feel so bad for them. And then at some point you're thinking, okay, now I need to be quiet for a minute. I need to be in solitude for a second. And it's not easy.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that we cannot be there for each other. But knowing that, why did you choose the profession?
It's the best.
Yeah,
it's the best, to be honest. I enjoy it thoroughly because it helps you answer the big questions in life.
Yeah.
So I was like, it makes sense to go and find out those questions for myself and then maybe use what I find for other people.
Yeah.
That was honestly the straightforward
And what's
reason.
your outlet? For us, we'll come to you.
Oh, I have a
And
therapist.
you? Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody works scot-free. I have to go and tell my therapist.
Yeah, every therapist has a therapist.
Every therapist
and
should have a therapist.
Should have another therapist.
Yeah. I know. It's not a popular belief in the therapy world that every therapist should have a therapist.
Yeah.
There are some therapists who are against it. They're like, But honestly, I don't think you can do good work when you are just that isolated and that alone. You need someone. You need someone because you also get, you get to hear human beings at their lowest most of the time.
Yeah.
As much as there's good news and exciting things to talk about, some people don't come to therapy for fun.
Yeah.
They've tried everything most of the time, and nothing has worked. So they're coming to you when they feel like they're at their wits' end.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what does it take to be a good therapist? And maybe in the same breath, you can tell us, how does one identify a good therapist?
Okay. So this is my belief. Of course, I'm sure somebody else will have a different answer. But my belief about being a good therapist is very much rooted in something that one of our OGs said. His name is Carl Jung. And he said that you, as a therapist, you cannot take your clients where you have not been. Yeah. Like you can only take your client as far as you've gone. And so I think for you to be a good therapist, for you to be a good therapist, you need to be willing to go to the depths of what it means to be human.
Yeah.
And if you are not willing to do that, then it will be very difficult for you to understand humanity and to be able to walk through the range, to live the range of the human expression. So if as a therapist, a good example that I always give is something like suicide. If as a therapist you have not explored suicidality for yourself, I'm not saying you've been suicidal, but have you explored it for yourself?
I've explored it.
Do you understand what suicide is to you? You will find it difficult to work with a suicidal person because you have not gone to the depths. And I'm not saying you need to be suicidal. You just need to have explored that side of being a human being.
Yeah, and to also understand to what percentage, like to what level would someone have to get there?
Yeah.
Like how badly is their situation?
Sometimes it's not even bad. Sometimes suicide is impulsive.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a thing that you do, and you're gone. It's not always a planned thing.
Like there's nothing that it never came from somewhere?
No, sometimes it's because of a situation and event that has happened right now, and the first impulse you have is, I could take my life and this could be all over, and you go take your life. So it's not always planned. But then again,
Anyway,
you need to, as a therapist, for you to be a good therapist, that is my opinion, you need to be willing to go to the depths of what it means to be human.
Yeah.
So that if, no matter what kind of client you have, it's not that nothing shocks you, but it's just that nothing shocks you.
Yeah.
Like when a client tells you, I'm suicidal, you don't go, what?
What?
Guy.
How did you even get... Hey!
Where? You know it's a crime. You know it's a sin.
Yeah.
You don't start telling clients things like that.
Yeah.
So for you to be able to sit with that heaviness of suicide, as an example, you can't do that if you've never really thought about it for yourself. If you're also dealing with your own anxieties about death, about mortality, about what it means to be a human being.
Okay.
So a good therapist is one who is willing to go there. And if you can't go there, or if you have not gone there, you will struggle a lot in your work. That's why it's important for you to have your own therapy. It's important for you to have a lot of supervision. Supervision is not having a boss. It's having someone you consult with who is more advanced in a way. Like they're more educated, they are more experienced, they understand many, many different things. So having like a more experienced therapist in your circle to bounce ideas with, and also peer supervision with your colleagues, your friends, your peers. You need to talk to your peers so that you know you're not struggling alone for you to be a good therapist. Curiosity, empathy. If you're not curious, you really can't do good work. You need to be very, very curious about what it means to be human. If you're closed-minded, you're just like, this is the path of humanity, you will struggle a lot because people will shock you. People will come in and they'll have things that you've never had. If you're not curious about them, you want to fit them in one box so that you can treat them this way that you know, then your clients will be living every single day. They'll come in for one session and they're out. One session, they're out. And you're wondering, Bona, sinanga clients.
Na hawarudi.
Hawarudi.
Yeah, so looking at it that way, you have to put yourself in the, if I may say it, in the shoes of your client. Is that it?
Yeah, to a degree, that's empathy. You need to be able to see the world from another person's point of view. You need to be in their shoes, not just looking at the same direction, but actually looking at it and seeing it the way they see it. So that's empathy. You need to have like deep levels of empathy for you to be a good therapist. It can't work without it.
Why are you in the shoes of a creative?
Sorry?
Why are you in the shoes of a creative? Like, why creatives for you?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Because I am a creative.
Yeah.
I know our problems. I'm not saying we have problems, guys. We are good.
We are good. We are fine. But we are talking about...
It's good for you to talk to people in the language that they understand. And I am a creative. To a large degree. I may not be writing music, but I know that I am a creative because of the work that I do.
Yeah.
And also therapy requires a lot of creativity.
It does.
That's why it's not manual. Even if it's manualized, you still need to customize it to a person. And that's the creativity in therapy. You can't be a rigid person in therapy. You need to be able to be creative with your approaches. You read the theory and then you become creative with it in the room, with the clients, with the person, the real human being who is seated across from you.
So maybe just to ask, well, if it was from an argument point of view, everyone is a creative, including an accountant.
Yes.
Because they have to be creative in their way of doing whatever accounting they're doing and make their profession a little bit more exciting and, to stand out from the crowd. So how do I identify a good therapist?
A lot of it, unfortunately, is vibes, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like you just roll the dice, you keep rolling till you find somebody you fit with because of the relationship. So there's a thing in therapy that is called, in the field, that is called the therapeutic alliance. The therapeutic alliance is about the relationship you have with your therapist, the goals of therapy, and the way you're going to approach those goals. That's called the tasks of therapy. So if you and your therapist do not agree on these three things, there's going to be a problem. Yeah. The first part of it all is the relationship. Do you find the therapist that you're working with as someone that you would be willing to open up to? Tell them the truth, nothing but the truth. Someone you don't want to hide from. The way we hide in our other relationships. Because the relationship is the number one determinant whether you'd benefit from therapy or not. It does not matter their years of experience. Okay, it matters, but not like number one. It does not, number one is not the kind of therapy they practice. There are many different types of therapies. So it does not matter necessarily as number one, the kind they practice. The number one thing is the relationship you have with them. And if you perceive the relationship to be a good relationship. If you have a therapist that you are afraid of, if you have a therapist that you worship, a therapist that you idolize, a therapist that you think is all-knowing, a therapist that you think is ignorant, a therapist that you look at and you're like, unasema? You're not smart. Usoni kama umesoma wewe. You know that there's a kamadharau that can come in kidogo. It's just like, I don't think I agree with the things you're saying. You don't sound smart.
I make sense.
Kenye unasema. That's a thing. And I don't think most people talk about it. Because most people are like, a therapist is just smart. They just know. No, they don't just know.
They just don't know.
You need to be able to listen to your therapist and be like, that is somebody I would want to have their opinion again. When I listen to them, I'm like, I would want to hear what you have to say about this. So you know how you talk to some people and you're like, I don't think I would go to this person for an opinion. That's the same case with your therapist. If you can't go to them for an opinion about something, you don't respect their opinions. Not necessarily agreeing with them, but just respecting them, being like, that sounds like a thought out thing that you've said. It's not just, you're not quoting a TikTok video. Because some therapists are quoting TikTok videos. So it has to be somebody you respect. By respect, I don't mean idolize. I just mean that somebody that you are willing to listen to again. It has to be somebody that you are willing to speak to again. Somebody that you are willing to open up yourself. Every part of yourself, you're like, I would want this person to know. I am comfortable if this person knows. It has to be somebody that you benefit from the things that you talk about. It has to be somebody who also like puts guardrails around the therapy itself. They don't just let you come to therapy to chap a story.
That would be nice.
Would it?
And avoid your problems.
Well, right? And you're paying for it. Hey, you're rich.
It's an outlet.
It's an outlet. Send for cabbage. Yeah, it has to be
January or February.
Yeah, Jan. So it has to be somebody who is willing to maintain the professionality or professionalism of the job. It can be somebody that you just come to chap a story with.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there are no times that you want to chap a story. Sometimes it can be a good way to ease into the difficult things that you're going through.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be now, we're in therapy, we are going to talk about difficult things. It doesn't have to be like that. It can start off pole as talking about the weather, but it has to lead somewhere.
It has to get somewhere.
And your therapist needs to be somebody who is willing to do that. Otherwise, they are just what's the word for it? They're just helping you continue to live in the dysfunction that you live in. They are collaborators in your dysfunction. You don't want a therapist who is a collaborator in your dysfunction. You want somebody who can call you out, but not call you out as in shame you. Call you out as in hold you accountable. That is the therapist you're looking for. So if it's somebody that you really can't trust, somebody you can't respect, it's going to be difficult. And that's how you know a good therapist is good for you. Yeah. Can you trust them? Can you respect them? Do you want to speak to them again? Do you feel that it's somebody you can tell the truth? Do you feel the need? You don't feel the need to hide from them. You feel that this is somebody I want to see my heart.
Yeah.
That is a good therapist for you.
All right.
Yes.
So you've worked with creatives, right?
I have.
Yeah. And you've worked with non-creatives.
Yes.
Yeah. Though, as we said, as we can say that everyone is a creative in their own way, but there's the creative.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the non-creative, right? So what are the challenges that you have experienced with, and first of all, maybe to just ask, is it a different therapy for creatives, or as you said, you just have to figure out how to mold it around the creative or around the person that you're doing it for? And then maybe you can also tell us whether there are any unique challenges that you've seen creatives struggle with in terms of mental health.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the biggest thing is that mental health issues are the same. They just look different and they present different in different people. So I don't think, in my experience, it has not been that creatives come with different problems to therapy. Yeah. They come with regular human life problems. The same stresses, the same anxieties, the same fears, the same everything. But they are where those anxieties and fears come from is not where everybody else's comes from. Yeah. Creatives don't necessarily have special problems. They just have problems that are magnified in different ways because of where they come from. So let's take, for example, when it comes to identification with your work. Most creatives, the ones who work now, tumesema the ones who work as creatives on a day-to-day basis. That's their thing. Yeah. Will find that they over-identify with their work. They take it very personal. So if they face criticism from an outsider or a fan, a non-fan, they take it very themselves. They take it very, very personally, because this is their brainchild. This is their baby. It's very personal.
It's very personal.
It's my thing.
Yeah. Why are you telling me my music is simple?
Yeah.
Why are you telling me my writing is not creative?
Right.
I'll take it very personally.
Yes. So because creatives identify with their work very personally, if they face criticism of any sort, for them, then it becomes a personal attack.
It does.
And so the pain hurts more than a regular person's would hurt. So for example, take it like plumbing. You know very well the standards of plumbing have already been laid out. Yeah. You know what good plumbing is and what bad plumbing is. It's if my taps are leaking and you are a plumber and you are here, Jana, why is my tap leaking? We know the standard of success, the mark of success for plumbing. The tap is not leaking.
The tap is not leaking.
And that is very objective. Anybody can identify bad plumbing from good plumbing. There is no guesswork. So if a plumber is called back, hey, hii tap ulieka jana bado ina leak, they would be like, wow, I'm a bad plumber. I'm going through it. Nobody will ever call me again to plumb. Nobody will ever say that. Plumbers will be like, it means kuna screw fulani sikuweka vizuri. There's a place I didn't secure the leakage vizuri. There's a thing I didn't do that I can go and actually fix. And then the thing is working. The tap is no longer leaking.
It's no longer leaking.
So with creativity, it's very subjective. There's no yes, there are some things that are considered theoretically. This is good creativity. This is good work. Yeah. They are the basic standards they need to accept. Yeah. But then most of creativity is judged subjectively. If it's subjective, it means some people will love it, some people will hate it. If you're taking it personally, then it means that the people who hate it, their hate will feel horrible. And the people who love it, their love will feel like the best thing in the world. And you can either become a slave to the people who love it so much that you can only you stop creating for the intrinsic motivation of creation, but to feed this crowd that loves it. And so you lose your capacity for internal motivation. You become like What's that thing that nafanyangwa hivi nakuanga na marionette? You become marionette.
A marionette.
So your audience that loves it is the one that controls what you do. So eventually you stop even doing the thing that you do because you love it. You're like, it's because it feeds the people and the people are loving it. So let's do it for them.
Let's do it for them.
The problem is these people can one day wake up and they're like, you know what?
We don't like it.
Yeah,
we don't like how you do your hair.
You're no longer now a celeb.
Yeah.
Now you're
uso yako imekata.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happens to you then? So you've lost the thing that you used to do.
You have.
If then on the other side that the people who don't love it really control the way you experience and you do your creativity, then it becomes a problem because they are criticizing it. So you might not even create. You're like, they don't like it. What's the point? So you stop.
So does that mean as a creative, should I don't know how to ask that, but it would sound very weird. But let me just ask it as it comes. Should I separate myself?
To a degree, you should.
How so? Because you see, I don't know why I use accountant, but I think probably it's just the thing that comes to my head. Accountant akitoka kwa ofisi, ametoka kwa ofisi.
Yeah.
You know, like you'll go home and probably, there will be the mathematics going around in your head and floating around.
Yeah.
But as a creative, everywhere I go, if I can sing, I can sing. It's a gift. If I can paint, I can literally just take a paper and doodle.
Yeah.
Anytime. Any time of the night, I could wake up feeling from a horrible nightmare and start playing my instrument to make me feel better. How am I supposed to separate myself from the very thing that is inside me, from the very thing that makes me wake up in the morning? How am I supposed to detach?
I don't think it's necessarily detachments, and even if it is, it's to a very, very small degree. You need to be able, this is how I look at it. There are two ways I look at it. Let me touch on the first one. I think the first way that I think about it is, do you know that poem by Rudyard Kipling? It's called If. If is a very, very good poem. So there's a line on in that poem that I truly, truly love. It says, if you are able to meet with triumph and triumph and what? This something. Let me see. It's something. I'm forgetting the word for it. I have to tell you the way it is. So if you can meet triumph and disaster, yes. Yeah. So that poem is brilliant. Everyone should look it up. So it says that if you can meet disaster and triumph and treat those two imposters just the same, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, then yours is the world and everything that is in it. And that's how you step away from your work, in the sense that you realize the praise that you get from your people, the ones who are marioneting you over here, and the criticism that you get from the people who don't like, subjectively, they don't like your work. Those two things are imposters.
Yeah.
Your work is the work.
Your work is the work.
So when you can meet those two things and be like, imposters, hi guys, bye guys.
It's been real.
If your friends don't hurt you with their words, and your foes don't hurt you with your words either, and also your friends don't necessarily inure you so much with their words, and your foes don't bring you down so much with their words, you're just like, imposters. Then your work becomes the work. That's how you focus on the work, and you stop focusing on the side shows that are the praise and the achievements and the commercial success, because all those things are imposters. And it becomes a problem when you when you lie to yourself, or the world lies to you and you believe it, that these imposters are the markers of your success.
Your success.
So you need to find a way to define your success for yourself by the work that you do. So you need to realize that your creativity is not necessarily because of the imposters. It exists as an entity on its own.
On its own.
And you need to find a way to make sure that you don't forget that.
You don't forget that.
And nobody can do that for you. You need to be able to be like, always bring yourself back to center. The creativity is creativity on its own. Whether it is praised or criticized, it's creativity. It's a thing. It exists on its own. These two are imposters. How can I live my life knowing that these are imposters and not let the praise go to my head, not let the criticism go to my heart? That's how you kind of step away from it for kidogo too.
Yeah, I know you said that there's no specific mental health solution for a specific group of people.
Yeah.
You just try to cultivate it or develop it for the person who you're working with, right? But having worked with creatives, what are some of the excuses that you may have come across? And even though it's not just creatives, I know it'll just apply with everyone, but what are some of the excuses that you have come across that people don't want therapy? Why would I, for example, you come and tell me you need to go see, of course, it's just someone who believes I need to go see a therapist. But what are some of the reasons I will give you when I tell you I don't need one? What are the excuses that exist?
There are two things. I look at it in two ways. Number one is your usual suspects, the stigma around mental health. I mean, people will know the problems.
Yeah, we've been told that if you're seeking therapy, you're cuckoo.
Yeah.
Okay, let me cuckoo away.
Yeah. So there's the usual suspects.
Yeah.
Stigma around mental health. Also, there's a legit fear that I think is rarely spoken about, which is if I go to therapy and then my therapist loves Nairobi Gossip Club, me and my people will be next on that
Yeah,
list.
we're actually going to talk about doctor-patient confidentiality, but talk about it now.
Yeah. So ordinarily, confidentiality is the thing that holds together the psychology profession.
Yeah.
If there's no confidentiality, I don't think the profession exists. And so most creatives, because maybe they don't know that therapy exists in that cocoon of confidentiality, they worry that if they go and talk about their problems, then they will become a public affair. Already they're in the public. And I think this is actually a specific issue that happens specific to creatives, especially when they become famous, is that they have constant scrutiny from the public. You know how some people look around and they're like, I know people are thinking about me, some people talk about me.
Yeah.
Some people walk around with that thought that what will people think, what will people say?
Yeah,
that is a common thing that runs among
yeah,
people. But for creatives, especially celeb ones, it's a reality.
It's a reality.
People think about what you say. People talk about what you do. People look at you and judge you in a way. It's
People
not just
judge
at
how you wear,
it's
how
not,
you talk,
yeah,
how you present yourself,
yeah,
what you're driving, how you're walking,
where you live. Ulikuwa unaishi Kilimani na sasa unaishi wapi?
Ati COVID imefanya urudi wapi? Umetoka gated community ukakam kuishi na sisi kwa apartment
with your chihuahua.
With your chihuahua.
Yeah. So it's not for them. It's not hypothetical. When the rest of us, it can be hypothetical. You know how you walk down the street and you hear people laughing. Some people will assume, okay. Some people some people have different stories going on in their head.
Yeah.
So you walk down the street and you're like, oh, they're laughing at me. But for celebrities or people who have just achieved some relative fame, it's a reality. People are looking at you and they're like, ndio ule. Uko kwa matatu. Why?
Huh?
Yeah.
Unalipa 40 bob na mimi. Kwani hujachukua Uber?
Yeah. So for them it's a reality.
Yeah.
And things like that can make it difficult for them now to seek mental health support. Because you're thinking, if small things like these ones, I am being judged so harshly. Imagine if they find out I am depressed. Imagine if they find out I was sexually abused. Imagine if they find out that I am struggling with an addiction of some sort.
Or they start feeling as if you will use that conversation in another session.
Yeah. Or you can also become content.
Unaendanga kwa pastor for counseling, unamwambia hey, it happened. And then on Sunday you're wondering, why is this someone familiar?
This tone is sounding very much...
Why is it very familiar?
Yeah.
So how are you able to keep the doctor-patient confidentiality such that even with your close people...
Yeah.
Does it dictate that even with your close people you might not go say, but I have this client who's struggling with, is that
There's
what?
a whole meme around this actually. Yeah, you don't, as a psychologist, of course, I will never disclose anything to do with my clients anywhere for any reason.
Or use them as an example.
Yeah. Like there's enough examples, guys.
Yeah. Be encouraged, please seek help. Be
encouraged. And I love my job too much. I would not want to lose it over one story. Guys.
But no one will know. No,
I will know.
Ethics.
I will know.
There's ethics.
And I can't sleep with myself knowing that I've done that.
True.
So again, and these things have happened, obviously. There's many instances where therapists have broken confidentiality. It's scary and horrible and not a good thing, but it happens. But yeah, that could be a reason why a creative would not seek help, because they're afraid that their story will leak. And when it leaks, then they lose everything. They lose their fame. They lose the attention that they get. They lose the access that they have. People stop calling them for gigs because they're like, hey, we are depressed.
Hey, watatupatia shida, because that's what we all know.
Yeah, you assume that if you're depressed, you can't work.
There must be a problem. Yeah. So is there like a contract you guys sign, an NDA?
Oh, yeah. So when you come to therapy, like for example, with my case, when you come and we start doing therapy together, the first thing that you will sign is an informed consent form. And that informed consent has many things in it, including confidentiality and the limits of confidentiality. There are limits.
So even though I was to come and sign it, I mean, there are many similar stories you hear.
Yes.
And even though I go and tell someone, so my client is struggling with A, B, C, and D, how will they know it's their story?
You will know in it's your story, but that's not even the point. The point is, if I need to talk about my client, I will never talk about it with a regular mwananchi. I won't talk about it with my sisters and my brothers. I won't talk about it with my family members or my best friends. I won't be seated at a cafeteria and we're chapping stories and I'm telling you guys,
Let me
wacheni
tell you
niwaambie.
about this client.
No. When we talk about, now that's one example of a limit to confidentiality.
Yeah.
I can talk about my clients, but not in the way that a regular person would. I will talk about this in supervision with my supervisor, and we will talk about specific things, and we'll talk about the client in a very in mysterious ways. I will not go and tell them, no, I have a client called Lydia.
Her name is Lydia?
No.
She was wearing a red sweater on that day when she came.
Those are not the things we'll talk about. We'll probably talk about, there's this client I'm working with. They are age 20. They are female, or they're struggling with their sexuality.
So like an avatar of some sort.
There's an avatar of some sort. And this is what we have done so far. We don't go to supervision every day from day one. You go when things are becoming kind of, it's like you're getting stuck as a therapist. You're not sure where to go from here. So I can't go now I've gotten my client today, and today in the evening I'm like, hey, supervisor, nateseka. I should not be tesekaing on day one. It should be after a few sessions, so that I can go and be like, we have done this so far. We have covered this. This is what we have addressed. This is what they brought in. This is where we have gone from here. These are the things we have explored. And so we are struggling to see where to go from here. And that's why it's going to be an avatar of some sort. And of course, it will never be me mentioning your name. So that's one, as I said, that's one set of issues. There's the kawaida issues that I don't want my story to leak, confidentiality issues. I am afraid of having to talk to somebody. It's just too much work. Why should I tell people?
And then you're telling the story.
Yeah, nafaa kujikaza kimwanaume. I should not be telling people my problems, things like that. It could be finances. It could be, I can't really afford it. This thing is expensive. Depending on who you look for. Of course, there are cheap therapies. You don't have to go to the one who's charging the highest amount. So those are your kawaida sets. But then there's one bigger one that is for creatives. I will lose my creatives pack. That is the popular one. I create the best when I am depressed. And so they're afraid if I heal my depression, then I will not be able to be creative.
That's
and again,
the end.
And again, it's sad to think that way, but it's not true. There's a likelihood that maybe your depression is actually the thing that is making it difficult for you to actually create even better work. Yeah, so you need to entertain the possibility that it's not necessarily my mental illness that is making me creative. I am creative and I am managing to be creative even through my mental illness. And imagine what I could do if only I had clarity in my head. If every morning I woke up, I was not struggling with depression. I could get out of bed and I could do the thing. Just imagine what I could do.
Imagine.
So you need to be able to entertain that thought in your head and be like, what if? It doesn't always have to be, if I have depression, then I can create. That's not, because I think it's the, what do you call it? It's the romanticization of the tortured artist. There's that romanticization of bana tortured artist anakunywanga but anatengezanga video poa sana. Imagine you don't have to, you can just create when you're sober. I promise you it will be
fine. But tumesikia hizo vitu, like people who, and even probably someone who you look up to says ingia studio. I like the way you've now brought up that the when you've said you can create when you're sober. Like, can we talk about the drug, I don't know if to call it a challenge with creatives? Yeah, I know everyone in every other place of work is probably struggling with that. But for creatives, it's a bit, I don't know if the statistics have proven that creatives are more into alcohol and hard drugs. And I don't know if it's something, but from where we stand, it looks that way. So how do you get to tell a creative? Because for them, I mean, when they have smoked, they feel like they create the best. And there's nothing you're telling them, because every time they haven't smoked or puffed something, they don't feel creative. Like, how are you able to tell a creative that this drug is affecting you in this way, and if it prolongs, this and this and this is going to happen, and for them to actually be able to listen to you? Or do you just throw it out there and allow them to make a decision? But they'll still come back to you because we have been told drugs have a way of affecting your mental health. So is it, how do you tell that creative that this needs to stop?
That's the thing. You don't tell adults what to do. You let them make decisions for themselves. So if you're a creative, my job as a therapist is not to convince you to stop drinking or to stop smoking. You can drink and smoke. It's your life.
It's your life.
Alafu.
Yeah.
So as a therapist, my job is not to convince you of anything. My job is just to tell you, to help you figure out what you want to do with your life.
What you want to do with your life.
If you want to continue smoking, imagine continue smoking. If it affects your creativity, me, I can't sit here and tell you, hey, but it doesn't make you create better. I'm just going to tell you, it's going to affect your brain. That's just reality.
Yeah.
The drug that you're taking will affect your brain.
And maybe we have this misconstrued idea that coming for therapy means being told to stop doing what I love doing.
Yeah.
And probably that's something that we need to be aware of. No one is changing your life in therapy.
No.
Yeah, you're just being...
You are changing your life.
Yeah, you're changing your life.
Yeah.
Like, no one is telling you what you need to do in a certain way. No one is changing your life. And that's how we've grown up.
Yeah.
We don't like it. And especially for creatives, I don't want to hear you telling me how I should change my music like this. This is what I dreamt about last night. There's nothing you're telling me. So when I come for therapy, I don't want to hear that as well.
Yeah, there's the issue about alcohol and drug abuse in the creative industry. I don't think that creatives, okay, I could be wrong, but I don't think creatives are more prone to drug abuse and alcohol and things like that. I don't think they're prone to it. I think the environment that they're in encourages it, so they do it.
Yeah.
And when they do it, of course, the numbers shoot up. Creatives are smoking too much.
Yeah.
Creatives are drinking too much. It's not because that now they are weaker-willed or they have bad manners. It's often because the environment that you are in encourages it. If you come to set, kuna alcohol provided.
Yeah.
If you, it's like
there's an open bar.
Yeah, there's an open bar,
party.
right? Yeah. So the way that the field goes like, it's okay. Imagine just do it. Drink something. Why are you not drinking?
Itakusaidia na usanii.
Yeah.
You will play that
and
instrument better.
You find that some people, maybe you came into the industry, you are not a drinker. Let's say, for example, we're going to use alcohol, for example. You're not a drinker. And then you started creating your arts. You have become very good at it. And now suddenly you're being invited to these things. You're being told, hey, you can go come for a gig or come present place flani, do something. And then the people around you are telling you, if you drink something small, the performance anxiety is going to go down.
It's going to go
Just
away.
take a shot. It's going to go down.
Liquid courage.
So when the people around you are telling you that, and you're like, okay, maybe let me do this once, because I know if I do it once, I can go and actually perform, and you actually go and perform. Sawa. So now you start believing that your courage comes from whatever you drank. And so that becomes normalized. And everyone around you is encouraging you. Go ahead, drink. Because when you say you are sober, they're like, why? Why are you sober? That's weird.
No stage.
Aje.
How is that possible?
Yeah. So because the environment encourages it, and then you try it once and it actually works, next time you try it again. The thing about alcohol, for example, is that you develop a tolerance. You develop your tolerance, and with time, now you're drinking a quarter, and then kanudu, and then a whole mzinga. And then next thing in rehab. And then everybody's like, wa, imagine alikuwa na performing poa sana, but amesha kwa mlevi, ako rehab.
Yeah, ako rehab.
Yeah. And then now the world starts assuming, ordinarily, that's the pipeline. You start out very well, you become an alcoholic, you go to rehab, you lose your creativity. You become a regular mwananchi, you changisha mchanga, and things become, you just become the rest of us. That is the curve. So when people come into the creative industry, they're like, I know how this story ends. I'll start off up here, I'll be good, I'll succeed, then I'll start drinking, then I'll go down, and then I'll isha maisha yangu itatokomea. But that's not real. That is just something that has been perpetuated. So it doesn't mean that creatives are more drug abusers. It means it's that the environment they're in encourages drug abuse. If it is encouraged and it is normalized, then of course you're going to find yourself doing it for some reason. You need a very strong will for you to be like, no, I'm not going to participate in that. And that's why you need to figure out exactly why you do the things that you do. You need to be very much rooted in your values. If you're not, you will be swayed. If you're swayed, then anything goes. If anything goes, then you lose your thing that you really started out liking. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you 3 questions in one.
Let's go.
Yeah. So what does good mental health look like for creatives? Are there mental health goals that creatives should aspire to? And are there any quick fixes or tips to get back on track? Because I think we're all looking for that. We're looking, nimekuwa mgonjwa, niko na homa, siendi hospitali, nitakunywa dawa.
Yeah. Good questions. Quick fixes, let's start with that one. There's never a quick fix for anything. And I know, there's a way that society has taught us. We can microwave everything.
Yes, we can. Kuna instant coffee pia.
Yeah.
Si lazima niende kwa kahawa nianze kugrind. I mean, I can just put it in water, I dissolve, nikunywe.
Yeah. So that's the problem that has been created by the instant gratification market, if I may call it. We are assuming that you can meditate yourself out of a bad night of sleep. You can't. You need to sleep for as long as your body needs you to sleep.
Yeah.
And of course, there are some days where you'll be working harder than other days. There's some days where you need an early morning. Other days you need a late night. But that can't be your everyday. And you can't microwave your mental health. That one just takes time.
It does.
So you can't harakisha the healing of depression. If you're depressed, you will take as long as you will take. If you are grieving, you will grieve for as long as you will grieve. There's no way to microwave it haraka and get it out of the way. Now I'm back. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
But of course, there are the basics, the kawaida things that you need to be doing on a day-to-day basis. You need to be able to do the basics. Basic self-care. Basic self-care is making sure that you're sleeping well. Sleep is the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
If you have not read Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, you should. It's my favorite book. Is it my favorite book? You should read that book.
Is it?
What's the other thing that you should do? Eat well.
Yeah.
Eat well looks different for everyone. I can't tell you to go and eat spinach. Some people eat spinach and they get heartburn. So I can't tell you eat spinach.
True.
But I'll tell you eat well. You know what that means for
Eat
you.
well. Yeah.
And if you don't know, kuna nutritionist, it's literally their job. The other thing that is important is to make sure that you are taking care of your physical body. If it's hygiene issues, if it's exercise, being out in nature. Being out in nature is medicine on its own. So you need to find a way to be out in nature. And it's not out in nature as in uko hapo nje kwa balcony. It's out in nature as in green spaces.
Yeah.
The greenness of it is the healing factor. Yeah. So try to find a way. Enda Karura if you can. Go to Ololua if you can. Go climb mountains if you can. Hike as often as you can. I know those sound like exhausting things, but it doesn't have to be a difficult hike. You can go on a simple hike. You can go on a simple walk. So try to be in green spaces as often as you can. You turn your house into a green space if you can. Try to find a way to add more plants in your room. Those are things that you can do for your mental health on a daily basis. So self-care is not something that you do at the end of the day, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, a big thing. It has to be every single day so that you don't burn out. If you're using self-care as a tool for healing burnout, then you're using self-care wrong. It needs to be every day. So what can you do every day to take care of yourself? The other one that is related to mental health is checking on your, your self-talk, checking on your anxiety, checking on your depression, checking on your self-awareness issues, checking on the negative self-talk you have in your head, if you have it, or the positive self-talk that you have in your head, self-criticism, self-doubt, perfectionism, your need for validation. Those are things you need to do for your mental health. So it's self-care. Yes. People-pleasing, boundaries or lack thereof. Those are things that are for your mental health. Specifically self-care for your mental health. So the stuff you do for your physical body and the stuff you do for your mind. And these things go hand in hand. So you need, it's not that you do one set and then you forget everything. So just because you're sleeping well does not mean that you have automatic positive self-talk. You have to spend time doing the self-talk and figure out what works for you.
So when does self become selfish?
When it's pathological, I guess. Like when it is at the expense of other people. You need to be able to know how to balance these things. I can't tell you specifically what is the line, but you know when you're doing things to hurt other people or at the expense of other people.
Okay.
But also, now you need to be able to know when you're doing things at your expense and when you're hurting yourself. So that's when it comes to quick fixes. What does good mental health look like for creatives? The number one big thing, I think, is the ability to identify a way that to detach yourself from your creativity so that you know where the line starts and where it ends. And I think this is something that we touched on a little bit. You need to be able to identify yourself from your work so that success and failure are not personal identities. If you don't know that, then you're going to struggle with your mental health because everything is going to always come back at you. It's going to hurt personally. You need to be able to find a way to become the plumber, to know what is the leaking tap and how can I fix the leaking tap without thinking that it is me who is a bad person.
Who's the problem.
Yes. So that's a good sign of mental health. Another thing that is a good sign of mental health is being able to define your own markers of success. So what does success look like for you, not what does success look like in the world.
Or for someone else.
Or
for my mother.
Or
my father, or my sister and brother.
Exactly. Because if your markers of success are tied to the world, they are external, then you'd always fall short. The world will always tell you these are the things that are markers of success. And then you chase them and you achieve them and the world is like, nah, not like that. Not that much.
It doesn't look nice.
There's something missing. So because it's a shifting goalpost and you're chasing it, then you'll always be struggling with your mental health because you're always falling short.
Yeah.
So you need to find your own markers of success. What is success for me? What is success for me? And that means if you can find what is success for me, it's easier for you to define what is enough. And when it's easier for you to define what is enough, it's easier for you to say yes. And it's easier for you to say no. to different things.
Yeah.
Some people would fall over themselves saying yes to certain things, but you don't, because for you that's not a mark of success. So you need to be able to define that for yourself. And lastly, I think another thing that is a marker of success for is a goal for mental health would be probably being able to build a philosophy around work and productivity for yourself that prioritizes wellness. Nobody will prioritize that for you. So you yourself, so you've defined your markers of success.
Yeah.
You need to identify what are your values. If you know your values, then you will know whether wellness is a priority. And if wellness is a priority, then it will be easier for you to be like, no, I can't do X, Y, and Z because that is not aligned with the things I'm trying to achieve, because that is not where I'm going. Me, I'm going this direction. I know everybody thinks I should be going this direction, but that's not my story.
That's not your story.
My story is very different. And I have defined that for myself. So I am taking responsibility. And when I wake up 10 years from now, into a life that I live, I am able to identify, I live this life because I chose it. And then you're not now battling a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Why? Because you walked into your life.
You walked into your life.
You didn't sleepwalk into it.
Yeah.
You didn't stumble into it. You didn't get into it on autopilot. You woke up every morning and you said, this is the life that I want. So I'm going to make X, Y, and Z decision because that is what leads me to that life. And so you need to define for yourself what productivity looks like, what is success, how can I achieve it, and how can I prioritize wellness for myself, because nobody will give me that.
No one will do that for
Nobody will do that for you. So I think that's a big one. And a goal that maybe all of us can live up to is just radical acceptance that, for example, as a creative, not everything you create is going to be a masterpiece, and that is okay. It's okay for you to create things that are regular. It's okay for you to create things that do not hit the charts, that not everybody recognizes. It's okay, imagine it's fine. And accepting that you will not always be producing masterpieces takes away the pressure. Because then the mark of success changes. It's not masterpiece, it's creating. That's the work.
Yeah.
That's the mark of success. Did I wake up and create?
Yeah.
That's it.
And also understanding that you're not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah. And again, goes back to if they're both imposters. Your success, your failure, they're both imposters. Can you meet them as they are without personalizing it? So those are ways I would think about for as far as quick fixes go, as far as aspirations for mental health and goals for mental health, good mental health, things of that nature.
Right. That's so well said, because honestly, there's so much pressure. There's so much pressure for a creative. I mean, if you stay a few weeks or a few months without giving something new, you'll always be asked, so what are you doing for yourself? So basically your goal becomes, I need to stop that question from coming to me, because in itself it's a lot of pressure. So what do? You tell yourself every 3 months you have to do A, B, C, and D. And what happens in those 3 months if you first of all don't have the resources, or you don't even have the time, or you don't have the mental capacity to create as well as you need to. You know, we have writer's block. Oh my gosh. We have writer's block. We have a lot of things that will keep us from being creative. Are we allowed to take a step back, or do we have to walk with what the society is telling us to do? And the answer is no, right?
Yeah, the answer is no. And actually I'm thinking about the way it's like, as a creative, you are as good as your last performance, or as good as your last piece of art that you created. That's like usually the kind of pressure that is put on creatives.
Exactly.
So if you don't meet that, you're not doing enough. If you're not a commercial success, then you're not doing enough. So that means that you are under constant pressure to be a high performer. But even athletes take breaks in their athleticism.
They do.
Yeah. No, Usain Bolt is not always running. Sometimes he's chilling. Sometimes he's like, we need to rest.
And enjoying
this muscle.
Goodness of his last run.
Exactly. So the fact that there's this thing where you're being defined by your last performance, that means that you're always under constant pressure to release something new, so that you can top up what you did. And it's not just releasing something new, it's releasing something better than the last one. But nobody can be that way constantly. And you need to give yourself permission to be the person that does not do that constantly, and to be okay with that. Because you need to be able to, again, go back and define what is success for me.
What is success for you?
And what philosophy of productivity and work do I live by that is aligned with my values, so that I don't need to bend to the pressure. I can confidently stand and be like, that's not my story. You want me to do what? No, that's not my story. Right. And it's not lack of flexibility ati we unakwanga mgumu.
You're too rigid.
No, it's not rigidity.
No.
It's also it's being able to have msimamo of some sort. Because if you don't have msimamo, kwani what are you meaning? Like where do you stand? Like you need to have a msimamo of some sort. I'm not saying be rigid, but have a msimamo of some sort that guys can identify you. They know ni so and so anakwanga hivyo. Yeah.
And it's okay.
It's okay.
Anakwanga hivyo.
Yeah. It's okay for you to have those like kind of boundaries for yourself. And I think another big problem is also the thing around now creatives being in the digital space. You have to be a social media person.
Yeah. And you have to appear a certain way,
you have
look a certain way.
Yeah. And you need to be your own social media manager. So I think most creatives now are freelancing to a degree. So you're not like attached to a talent management community or group that can do marketing for you or business things for you, or they can negotiate for you. So now as a creative, you need to learn a bunch of other things that you didn't have to do for you to be a creative in the past. And that is pressure, because every minute you're spending managing your business as a brand is taken away from you actually creating. So with time, your creativity and your work is becoming lesser and lesser. The quality is weakening because you're not spending time on it because it needs time.
It does.
You're spending time building your social media following. So with time, you stop creating the art that you liked. Now you're creating the art that algorithm likes, and the people on the side that like your stuff are enjoying. So you keep losing your intrinsic motivation to create. And that's why some creatives just hit that burnout phase where you're just like, I can't create anymore. I don't know what to create because I don't love anything now. I can't create anything.
Boundaries, man.
Yeah.
You need to create the boundaries. So just to ask, does price dictate professionalism? And maybe in the same breath, you can tell us how much you charge if you're comfortable with that, and also tell us how we can reach out to you or how we can reach you. Yeah.
So I don't think price dictates professionalism. I think price creates expectations. It's something that I was mentioning before, that if you're praised hapa juu, so for example, let's say in the therapy profession, if you charge 10K per session, your clients will come in and they will expect you to do miracles for 10K.
Like pat water.
You better be able to tell me what I need to do in the next 24 hours to heal my depression like this. But that does not work. And I'm not saying therapists don't charge 10K. I mean, do what you want. It's your life and it's your job. It's your business.
Job. And you know what you went through for you to be where you are.
Bro. Jibambe. But I am telling you, whatever price you set, there will be an expectation. So it's just the same way, like if you buy an expensive car, there's an expectation. It will come with something. There's a way that you expect it to behave. So if you buy a knockoff thingy kwa street, there's a way you expect it to behave. If you buy shoes kwa street za 200 bob and they fall apart in a week, you're like, nilibai so mbili anyway, nilibai kwa street. There's no disappointment hapo. You're like, expected. If you buy nice shoes at a shop that I won't mention and they cost you 5K and they fall apart in a week, you're like, narudi. Ini nini walinyuzia. So price does not necessarily dictate professionalism. But it will dictate expectations, and people will expect you to do some things because of the price that you charge. That does not mean that you should charge less than you're worth. That does not mean that you should overcharge people, because again, if you overcharge people and you can't deliver, we have a problem. So personally, it depends on the price, on the service that you're looking for. I have different services on my website, which you can check out. Safe Space Arena, just put that on the internet, it will come up. You'll find a bunch of things, or you can put my name, Jennifer Kyalo. It's attached to my work. My therapy services standard start from 3,500 per session. That can be once a week or 2 times a week. Some people want 2 times a week. Some people want once a week. Depends on what you want. So depends on what you're looking for. Happy to check out my website. It has everything. Safe Space Arena. Right, and we'll also be sharing her social media platforms as well, and her number, so that you can reach out to her. She's, wow, I have so much information here. I feel like niko na mahali naweza ambia mtu jambo ambalo kwa anajua before. So as we wind up, what's the one thing that you wish every creative knew about mental health, or what is that extra thing that you're able to tell them that we probably haven't mentioned in the interview? I think what I would say to creatives, if you're listening to this and you're wondering, wanasema, the thing I would say is, your mental ill health or mental illnesses are not like a prerequisite for creativity. You can be creative without having a mental illness. If you're thinking that you need to have kawazimu kadogo, kadot, for your creativity to like be like, a drop in the ocean. It doesn't have to be. Imagine there are many people who are creatives and they have mental illnesses. There are people who are creatives and they don't have mental illnesses. And there are people who are creatives, who are not creatives and they don't have mental illnesses. Like these things can coexist. You can be a creative and still struggle, and you can be creative and not struggle. So one does not dictate the other. And if you heal your mental health problems, you are not automatically eradicating your creativity. Your creativity can exist on its own. It doesn't have to be cushioned around mental illness. There's no shame in mental illness. It's a disease just like any other. You can get help. There are people who have literally gone to school to study this thing so that they can help you. Kuna medication, if you need medication. Psychiatrists exist for a reason. Kuna social supports. There are many organizations that offer free to relatively low-cost mental health services. I will share a link where you can have a look at that. There are hospitals in Nairobi where you can, NMS hospitals, you can go and talk to a therapist, even if you don't have a serious mental illness. There's always somewhere you can go and speak to a therapist. These things are heavily available. Please do not isolate. It's important that you speak to someone. And yeah, that's what I would say to creatives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That's very heartfelt. I was lost in that. Yeah. We need each other. We need each other. Like I feel like sometimes the stigma that comes with mental health secludes a lot of people from actually speaking about what's going on with them. So speak out. And that's what the 145 booth is about. It's a safe space. And I love that yours, as I said earlier, is safe space arena. Yeah. So utakuwa therapist wangu.
Ngumu.
Really?
That was so quick, guys. Sorry.
Hata ungengoja ni kuexplain what I'm going through and tell you why though.
Yeah.
But you're here. I have your number, Jennifer. We talked and we introduced each other. And I mean, why can't you be my therapist?
Because now we have a relationship with therapy. So ordinarily, there's this thing in therapy called the dual relationship.
Yeah.
Your therapist cannot be your any other thing. Your therapist cannot hire you to come and perform at the event. Ati sasa niko na harusi and then I'm saying, kuja uniimbie. No, I can't hire you for anything other than, as long as you have a therapeutic relationship, that is all that we can have. So if possible, do not have a dual relationship with your therapist.
So siwezi kuita sherehe?
No, we can't go drinking on the weekends together. And if we meet on the streets,
soda tunakunywa soda, coffee, tea.
If we meet on the streets, you can't also now we can stop and start talking. If now I'm your therapist and we are meeting on the streets, ama we meet at the supermarket, we can go like, wow, unakumbuka that thing we were talking about last week? Yeah, I tried the breathing technique.
We can't be friends.
Nah. So your therapist is your therapist and your friends are your friends, and your therapist cannot be your friend. Your friend who is a therapist cannot be your therapist. That's how it works.
Nilikuwa nafikiria job imeisha.
No.
Okay.
So you need to find a therapist who is dedicated to just serving you as a therapist, because it's a professional relationship like that. If your therapist is sending you memes, if your therapist is sending you TikToks, if your therapist is calling you, asking you to come and perform at the events, if your therapist, there's this company that has called me, they have said they're looking for an artist, could you perform? That is not your therapist. That is somebody who's crossing serious boundaries.
Ata promoting my business.
No. Your therapist cannot ask you now to mention them, to shout out their name in your song. Also, your therapist...
Shout out to my therapist. I can't do that in a song.
No, me.
Thank you for the help.
Me as a therapist, I can't tell you to do that. You do what you want. But me, I can't tell you to do that. If I tell you to do that, I am breaking boundaries.
Yeah, kuna mahali tume...
Yeah, we are no longer in a therapy relationship. Your therapist cannot be somebody that you have this very casual relationship with. You can't go around hugging your therapist. Under very, very specific, unique circumstances can you hug your therapist. Ordinarily...
But I'm a hugger. That's how I greet people. No? Kidding. All right. I will not hug my therapist.
Yes, you cannot be calling your therapist as your number one emergency contact when you have an emergency. Those are things like you need to have very strict boundaries with your therapist.
Okay.
Very, very strict. And if you meet a therapist who is willing to be flexible and very like pushing boundaries kidogo.
Break the rules kidogo.
They are willing to like break rules kidogo here and there. Be very, very keen because a lot of serious boundary violations start off with very good intentions.
Yeah,
it's your therapist just picking your call because you called on a random Tuesday at midnight and you're having a crisis. That's how it starts. They want saying at your special client, but it just happened that you had an emergency. So even your therapist, like when you go to therapy, make sure that you talk about with your therapist about what are the protocols with conversations outside of therapy.
Yeah.
Should you be texting? What should you be texting about? Should you be calling? When can you call? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Your therapist should be able to give you protocols for dealing with your emergencies. It can't be the first person that you call when you have an emergency, your therapist, because you don't always go into emergencies. Your therapist should be able to give you levels of the ways that you engage with them and you engage with your problems. Of course, unazanga hapa chini, you are struggling, maybe I am having just a difficult day. Your therapist should be able to tell you what you need to do. Not tell you, should be able to work with you to figure out what you can do when things are hapa chini. The kawaida, I'm just struggling, I'm not sleeping well. Your therapist can work with you to build a safety net for that time. And then when the problems are becoming a crisis, your therapist should be able to give you a protocol to handle crisis. And then when your problems are becoming emergencies, your therapist should have given you a protocol that you can use to handle emergencies. And it's not that they're giving you a thing that is laid out. It's you together working together. So you with your therapist, you work out something that is realistic for you. So your therapist can tell you, when you're having a crisis, go for a run. I live in Kibera. At night, I'm not running. It's midnight. Hakuna stima kwa streets. I could be Ngetward, you know?
Yeah.
So your therapist cannot tell you something like that because ati kwa maybe the literature in psychology, it says, move your body, take a run, go for a walk. That does not make sense. So your therapist should be able to work with you to figure, that's why therapy is a collaboration. Work with your therapist to figure out, what do I do when I'm having a regular day, when my problems are escalating, when I'm in a crisis, when I'm in an emergency. When do I call my therapist? Who should I call when I am having a crisis? Where should I go? What are the things I should try?
Yeah.
That's how you look at it.
All right. My best friend cannot be my therapist.
Word.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much. This was a wonderful conversation, and I believe that a lot of us have gotten such amazing information. I personally have gotten a lot of information that I didn't know. So thank you so much for coming to the show.
You're very welcome.
And we are going to have you again, because I don't think this is a conversation that we can finish in one sitting.
That's very
and there's so much that we need to know about mental health, and especially when in this space where you're constantly giving a product, or we feel that there's a pressure of constantly having a product. You know, for someone else, I don't know, in other professions, I don't know, and probably we should have a creative who is part of another profession. Their product is where they go. For us, our product walks with us. You're typically feeling like it's a burning thing inside you that has to get out. So thank you so much for having this conversation with us. Thank you so much for demystifying a lot of what we needed to hear. And I hope that the guys that all of us are able to get something from this, and we're able to understand what needs to be understood. And even though you don't understand what you need to understand, there's something that you can get from it. And please feel free to ask as many questions as you need. Reach out to Jennifer. Yeah, she's open. Please don't make her your best friend, because she's our best friend. Yeah. So her information is out here, and I hope that it is something that is going to help you. Thank you so much for coming to the episode. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and commenting on our social media pages. And if you have not been there, follow us, like, share at The145Booth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at The145Booth. And thank you so much for coming to this wonderful podcast. Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. I'm still, wow, this is a lot.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll have you again.
Thank you.
And I'm sure everyone who's watching would want Jennifer back on this set. So thank you so much. And until next time, this is The145 Booth. See you.